Hi. Today we're going to talk about the DBX 117 compressor, but also the fear that most of us have of this guy. The soldering iron. Now, if you've just come here for the tutorial on how to mod the compressor, check the chapter markers and you can skip straight to it. But if you want to hang out for a bit, there are a few lessons I've learned, or more some mindset shifts I've had towards the repair, maintenance and modification of my own gear. I've always been quite comfortable taking stuff apart and putting it back together, but when it came to soldering, that always felt like a step too far. Capacitors, resistors, this thing, it definitely felt quite overwhelming and intimidating, and to be honest, it still does. But now I feel like I'm a little bit further towards understanding some of this, at least within the context of the modifications and repairs that I've done. There are two people that I really want to thank for helping me with this. The first is my drummer Charlie, who helped me dismantle a Hammond organ to take it up 6 flights of stairs to my apartment. For part of that process, we had to desolder and resolder the bass pedals, and just him doing it in front of me and getting me to do some of the process really showed me how simple it actually was. There will be a video on that whole process at some point. It was wild. The second person I have to thank is an amazing musician called Mario DeSanto. He's got an awesome YouTube channel which has a lot of videos around maintaining and repairing your own gear. I'll put a couple of links in the description so you can go and check out some of the ones that have helped me the most. Also, his music is fucking amazing. Now, you're probably watching this video for one of two main reasons. Either you specifically want to do this mod to the DBX 117, or the algorithm thinks that this video is tangentially connected to other videos you would usually watch. Okay, yeah, I realize I just explained what the algorithm does. But either way, I'm going to take a guess that you learn things in the same way that I learn things. I've got a specific problem that I'm trying to solve, and I'll come on here to see if anyone's either solved that problem or done something similar that I can apply to the problem that I'm trying to solve. Basically, I learn stuff by doing it when the need arises for me to do it, and then I can apply that learning to other similar situations I might be in. So we're going to use the DBX 117 as a case study for precisely that process. Now, I'd been looking for a vintage compressor for a while because I'm really getting into analog gear and I thought it'd be really fun to have one, especially one that didn't cost too much, so I could spend time learning to use it and decide whether I actually enjoyed the process without financially destroying myself. So I started searching in all the usual places, and the DBX 117 turned up for a relatively cheap price. Now, I got pretty excited about this because I love the sound of the DBX 160 and I've used a couple of the plug-in versions of it, so I started doing some research into the 117 and came across a mod that a lot of people were doing to it. And to my surprise, it was a mod that was actually encouraged and explained within the manual of the DBX 117 itself. Then I got even luckier because I found one even cheaper on eBay, put a bid on it, and no one bid above me. So now I have it, and we're going to take a listen to how it sounds before doing the mod. To test it out, I'm going to be using some drums I recorded with Charlie last year for my 70s soundtrack inspired record, Pacific Highway Daydream. This is a drum loop from the title track. Here's what it sounds like in context. Here are the drums by themselves. Now we'll listen to the drums going through the DBX 117 via the Logic I/O insert, via my Apollo Twin and Patch Bay. I've used 3 ratio points to keep the test consistent between the pre and post mod. I've switched between the slow and the fast settings, and I've set the gain match to a fixed point. Now let's do the mod. Alright, hang on. I just finished editing the video and I realized I missed something absolutely crucial. And that is safety first when doing this kind of stuff. Make sure the unit is off unless it needs to be. There are loads of videos on how to do this stuff safely. Have common sense, learn about safety when doing these repairs. Alright, here it is. Use a Phillips head screwdriver to open up the side panel. Watch out. Then remove the top panel. Have a look inside. Then remove the bottom panel. Have a look inside. And here it is with the schematic. But when you open yours up, you might notice a little discrepancy that I noticed as well. R35 isn't where it's supposed to be. But I think I figured out what's happened. This is R30, that is C12. Me again, post-edit. The reason I'm assuming this is because R30 is the small one, C12 is the big one, they're next to each other on the board, and next to each other on the schematic. It's just a guess. Which makes this R36, which makes this R35. Because you got to assume that this is R38 and this is R39. So let's see what happens if we bypass this guy and connect here to here. Let's take a look on the other side. We connect this to this, bypassing this connection. Alright, let's get the old fire hazard going. Now when I started doing this, I realized that I didn't have any spare wire, so instead I used bits of solder to make the connection. I'm sure this is 100% what you're not supposed to do, but it's all I had at the time. And sometimes you just gotta use what you've got lying around in the house. Then my hair got in the way for a little bit, but finally, as you can see, we made a little bridge between those 2 points. Bypassing R35. Let's put it back together and see how it sounds. Is it gonna turn on? Yes. Is it doing anything to the signal? Fuck all. Alright. Let's see if there's a connection issue. No, still nothing. Alright, let's have another look. It was at this point that my terrible old soldering iron decided to short out all the electricity in my apartment, so I had to get a new one. This time I decided to remove the resistor from the circuit completely, and hopefully that's going to work. I also used this little desolder sucky syringe gun thing that came in the same pack as that old soldering iron. It's not entirely necessary, but it definitely helped in this case. If I had them, I'd probably use tweezers on the other side to pull the component out, but I just gently pried it out using this tiny screwdriver. There it is. Before we listen to it, I will note two slightly inconvenient things that have happened as a result of doing this mod. Firstly, there's a lot of noise coming through when the compressor is not receiving audio. I'm not sure why that is, but as I said, it's only happening when the compressor is not receiving audio and doesn't seem to be affecting the signal that I'm actually trying to use. So I can live with it for now. The other thing is around the level match. When I'm cranking it up to the higher ratios, the signal gets a hell of a lot louder, and when I try to level match it, it seems to absolutely neuter the sound. Now I'm sure you can tell me exactly what the reason for that is, but for the time being, the way I'm compensating for that is just turning down the input gain on the Apollo. I think what I will eventually do is make a little toggle switch so I can switch between the modded and unmodded circuitry, but for some reason I'm quite hesitant about changing the external look of any of my gear from exactly the way it looked when it came out of the factory, especially with vintage gear because of how much I enjoy the aesthetic look of it. What I might do is replace the gain match potentiometer with an in-out toggle switch and use that to change between the two circuits. Don't know how to do that at the moment. If anyone knows, please let me know in the comments, and maybe we'll come back to that in a different video. So this isn't really a review, but I will say that I think it sounds beautiful. The subtle settings sound amazing, and when you really crank it, sounds awesome. I imagine the more cranked version would likely be used more as parallel compression, but really it's up to you, whatever fits your taste musically. So I'm not going to say that using a soldering iron or messing around with electronics is easy. We all have different brains. What might be really easy for me might not be easy for you, and vice versa. But hopefully just by watching me, someone who's a relative amateur with this stuff, do this mod, it's maybe demystified the process a little bit and inspired you to maybe do your own repairs and modifications. If anyone else has done some simple repairs or modifications recently, or knows any great videos on here or anywhere else on the web that's a great place to go to learn about stuff, then please drop it in the comments. Hopefully we can build a little resource for people to browse through when they're feeling a little bit stuck. If you found this helpful, please buy my music on Bandcamp, like, subscribe, follow me in all the places. Thank you, bye!